In 4.1c, I'm going to talk about what is called a simple random sample and show you how to use what's called Table D to actually select a random sample. When you pick a sample, you have to make sure it doesn't have bias. You want to allow for impersonal chance to choose the sample. You truly want this to be random. So random sampling is the use of chance to select a sample using a central principles of statistical sampling. And here's how it works. What they're going to talk about is a sample size of n. In our statistics course here, the letter n stands for sample size, so keep that in mind. And a simple random sample is an SRS. It consists of n individuals from a population chosen in such a way that every set of n individuals, and this is key, every single set has an equal chance of actually being selected. If every single possible set out there does not have an equal chance, if one is more likely than the other, it is not a simple random sample, and it's not a good sampling method to use. So here's an example. Let's say that you want to pick 4 kids in class as a simple random sample. How do you structure it so it truly is a simple random sample? Are all options equally likely? Well, if our goal is to pick 4 kids from class, what if I said this? I want to go ahead and really just pick 2 boys at random, and then I'm going to pick 2 girls. So maybe I have all the names of the boys in one bucket and all the names of the girls in the other bucket, and I pick 2 boys and 2 girls. This, in our case, is not considered a simple random sample because all possibilities have to be available to me. If I only pick 2 boys and 2 girls, one combination, for example, where I have 3 boys and 1 girl is not possible. So doing this method would have some bias to it and is not a simple random sample. Now let's just talk about how would you actually pick your simple random sample. There's a variety of ways. One common way is to do a random number generator where you can use it on your calculator. A second method is to use a random table of digits. And in the back of your note packet, there is what's called Table D. Table D is actually supplied on the AP exam in the formula sheet, and you can use it to pick random elements for your survey. A third method that is commonly used on free responses is to put numbers in a hat and to actually draw from the hat. This is a good method to use. It can have a flaw sometimes though. If you have a large population, it's going to be too hard to actually cut out pieces of paper for every single person and put them in a hat. Let's talk more about that second method I said, which is the random table of digits, or Table D in this case. How can you choose from it? You will probably see some multiple choice questions on your AP exam related to this. So what the definition is of a random digits, it's a long string of digits from 0 all the way to 9. Each entry in the table is equally likely to be of any of the 10 digits from 0 to 9. The entries are independent of each other. That is, there's no knowledge of one part of the table gives information about the other part. So it's very much an unbiased table. How do you use Table D? There's 2 steps. The first step is going to be label. So within your particular group that you're going to get your sample, you want to give each member of the population a numerical label of the same length. So if our population consists of, let's say, 100 people, I would want to give everyone a number. So someone might be numbered 100. Because someone could be 100, I would have to have someone else labeled as 099. I could also have a 098, a 097, and so forth. Everyone needs it to be at the same length. Once everyone's been assigned a number, step 2 is to read the table. You're going to read consecutive groups of digits of the appropriate length from Table D. Again, this is found in the back of your note packet. Your sample consists of the individuals, the labels that you find. Let's go through an example. So go to the back of your note packet again and look for Table D and look at line 130. What you should see is actually this row of digits. So line 130, if you read along the rows, you'll find this row of digits. That's what we're going to use. And here we have a list of different hotels. And we want to pick a sample of hotels for our particular study. So on here, there are 28 hotels. So we labeled the last one 28, which means everyone has to have a 2-digit number. Every hotel was assigned a 2-digit number going from 1 to 28. Be very careful. If you just label, for example, here, Anchor Down Hotel as the number 2, that's actually incorrect. It must have 2 digits, so put the 0 in front of it. Now what you would do is you're going to go to wherever random part of the table you want to, and again, they're choosing line 130. And you go and you pick 2-digit numbers. If you look at this, the first 2-digit number that's chosen is 69. We don't have any number 69 here, so continue to the next 2-digit. The next 2-digit is 05, which means Beach Castle would be chosen. Continue on. 16 we do have, which is the Radisson. We don't have a 48. We do have a 17, which is Ramada. And then the next one is 87, which we don't have on the table, so we ignore it. But then we're going to notice the next number we have again is another 17. One of the things you must talk about is what you do with repeated values. This is required when you set up how you pick your sample. Well, we already chose the Ramada once, so do you ignore repeats or do you continue on with this case? In this particular one, you must state that you ignore the repeats. We already chose the Ramada, so we skip it. The next two are 40 and 95, which are outside of our number range. Here we land on 17 again. It's another repeat, so we ignore it. We continue on until we get our next valid 2-digit number, which is going to be the number 20. That's going to lead us to our fourth particular hotel of the C Club. We have now chosen the 4 hotels we want for our sample using the random table D. Let's look at a fresh example here. I would like to select a size 4 from our class, let's say of 20 students. How could you do this using table D? So they're going to ask you on a free response and you have to write it out. So I'm going to say this. First, I'm going to label. For labeling simplicity, assume students are called student 01, 02, all the way to student 20. So every student is labeled a 2-digit number. Then step 2, I'm going to go to the table and I pick any row in the table in which I want to start. And I read a 2-digit number, skipping any that are not between 0, 1, and 20. And also, do I look at the repeats? In this case, I do want to say that I'm going to ignore repeats. On a free response question, you could easily drop from a 4 to a 3 if you don't talk about what you do to the repeats. Now, again, I'm deciding to start on line 101. Do not include the line number as part of your counting. We're going to start right away here with our first 2-digit number, which is 19. So based on that, 19 is a valid student, so that's our first student. Now the next student here would be 22. We don't have a student 22, so we skip it. Now be careful here, you do have to kind of combine the 3 and the 9 would be student 39, which we don't have. Our next one following that would be student 50, which we don't have, then 34, which we don't have. Now our next one is student 5, so 05 is the next choice. From there we have 75, which doesn't exist, 62, which doesn't exist, 87, which doesn't exist, but 13 is, so that's our next pick. Then we go to 96, 40, 91, 25, 31, 42, 54, 48, 28, and 53, and I still haven't chosen my fourth one, so I'm going to continue on to this line. When I go to the next line, we're at 73, 67, 64, 71, 50, 99, 40, 00. We do not have anyone labeled 00, so we skip it. The next is 19. 19 is a repeat. I ignore it. 27, another 27, 75, 44, 26, 48, 82, 42, 53, 62, and 90. We're continuing on to the next row. So over here, we're at 45, 46, 77. We have a 17, which would be our fourth pick. And that's how you use Table D to randomly choose. Let's do one more, but this time let's actually scroll through a column versus a row. Here's an example about mall hours, and they want us to use line 101, and we're going to select from the column to pick 3 stores from this list of stores at the mall. We want to randomly choose which stores we want to look at. So we're going to label the stores with 2-digit numbers, and that's already done. Then we're going to go ahead and record and pick 3 of the stores. Again, let's start actually at column 1 and work our way down this time. So to do that, the first store that we come across is store number 19, which we have. So I'm going to circle Star Jewelers. Then we're going to have 22, which we don't have. The next would be 37, which we don't have, 36, 76, 45, 46, 75, 27, and then 11. We do have store 11, which is Hager. Continuing on, we have 95, 59, 26, 84. Now we have 17, so that's going to be Panda Express. Now we have our 3 stores picked, so we could list here that we're going to sample. We're going to use Hager, Panda Express, and Star Jewelers. Now we didn't talk about it earlier, but what do we do with repeats in this scenario? When we are addressing the design of how we're going to pick our random for our sample, you must say ignore or include repeats. In this case, we are going to ignore repeats. If a store showed up a second time, it wouldn't make sense to pick them twice. Now, one of the first methods I talked about is you actually could use your calculator to get some random numbers. And let me just show you what you would do. It's going to be under this Math button. So on the Math button, you're going to go to Math, if you click that, and then Probability. So scroll over to the right to Probability. And it's right here, number 5, Random Integers. So if you select random integers, the new operating system is going to show you this method. They want to know what your lower bound and upper bound are. So for me, I want to pick the numbers 1 to 21. And then N means how big do you want your sample. If I want my sample to be 1, I would just hit enter and hit select. In this case, it's going to give me a random number. It gave me 20. I can run it again and get 4. I ran it again and got 11. Or what you could do is actually set it up to pick from numbers 1 to 21 and give me 3 in my sample. If you hit enter, it'll randomly select 3 numbers for you. So if you're not asked to use Table D, you actually could use the calculator to pick a random sample.